July 28th, 2021, we'll call the meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council Committee of the Whole to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Him.
Here.
We have a quorum. In this first item, we will be acting as the Falls City Council to act on a resolution. We'll call on Guy Taylor for water restrictions discussion. Good morning, Guy.
Good morning, Your Honor and Council. Thank you. Unfortunately, we're in this prolonged drought, and we were notified by the DNR a little over a week ago that we're to implement some water restrictions. Our ordinance spells out some restrictions, and with that, implementing a restriction requires that the council pass a resolution, so that's what we'll be asking for you this morning. But the basics of the restrictions would be to only water lawns between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., depending on your address, odd or even. No car washing, and no swimming pool filling. Some things that will not be restricted would be watering of gardens, flowers, newly planted trees and shrubs, newly sodded or seeded lawns. There is in the memo a table that details out some enforcement mechanism. We just trust that the residents will self-monitor this and just abide by the restrictions that are in place. And then as noted in the memo, the restrictions will just be in place until further notice.
And you have a question? Go ahead.
I would just support it. I mean, I know the DNR Ottawa County's had a lot of residents now whose wells have run dry, so we need to do our part where we can. So I'd offer that.
Resolution. Thank you, Anthony. Someone like to second that?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thanks, Justin. Guy, I just want to explain that odd even thing. Like, so it's the 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Depending on the odd even.
Yeah, depending on if your address is odd or even, ending in an odd or even number, then you would be able to water on the even day.
Got it.
Yeah.
So for example, I live at 510 and it's the 28th, so I could water my lawn tonight, but tomorrow night
Got it.
Kyle will be coming around putting me in handcuffs. Again.
All right. Any other? Scott.
How will we get this word out?
Yeah.
How is this
exactly,
going
that
to
was a
be
good point.
announced?
So with the passing of the resolution, we will publicize it on the website and on Facebook, and we'll just get the word out that way.
Hope that the paper can pick it up as well, I guess.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. So. Any other questions, comments?
I suppose we should just say that, at this point in time, we don't know when it'll get lifted.
Right, just till further notice.
Yep.
And this would become effective today, Your Honor, with this action. So we'd start getting the word out there immediately.
Got it. So, with this action, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hanford. Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
Rupert. Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Ernst.
Yes.
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 The resolution is approved. Thank you, Guy. And hopefully we can lift that soon and we get some rain, but thanks for the work on this and cooperation with the DNR. Item number 2 is the HRA tax levy request, and we'll call on Michael Olson. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, council members, city staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. In your packets, you have a letter that I provided City Administrator Bremseth, and a copy was provided to the mayor on July 1st. Just very quickly summarizing the programs and services that we're providing within Fergus Falls. So to start this morning, I think I'd like to update staff and council on some changes that are occurring at the HRA. On June 18th, the Otter County HRA provided a notice to terminate our agreement for services with the Fergus Falls HRA. As a number of you may know, for several years, the two agencies have been working basically with one staff out of one office. And as of August 18th, that will change. So Fergus Falls HRA will be providing services within Fergus Falls, and Otter Tail County HRA will now be staffed and providing services within Otter Tail County. I view this as a positive for Fergus Falls, and the primary reason I view it as a positive is we went from a 10-person staff splitting our time between two large program areas, and now we're down to a 6-person staff dedicated to providing high-quality services within the city of Fergus Falls. So I think as we look at Fergus Falls and continued operations, I see this as a positive for us here in Fergus Falls. Looking at the programming that we offer and some of the funding sources that are involved with the programming, as I mentioned in my letter to the city, starting first looking maybe at our voucher program, which is our rental assistance program. This is programming that provides payments on behalf of tenants directly to local landlords. So over the last fiscal year in Fergus Falls alone, Housing and Urban Development, acting through the HRA, has provided over $650,000 in payments directly to city landlords. On the annual, we received just over $1 million in funding through Housing and Urban Development. Again, $650,000 approximately of that goes directly to landlords on behalf of local renters. Approximately $250,000 goes directly into our public housing program, and about $90,000 to $95,000 arrives in the form of administrative fees for our voucher administration. So, our ability to levy this tax in Fergus Falls is very important for our continued operation. This is a big part of filling the gaps in the administrative fees that we don't receive through Housing and Urban Development or other program areas for the services that we provide. We were fortunate in 2021 to have a successful application to Housing and Urban Development. We've had 185 rental vouchers available in the city of Fergus Falls for a number of years. We added 40 new vouchers to that this last year, which is a big benefit for our city. We have a relatively long waiting list on our rental assistance program all the time. So, the more programming that we can add, the more people in town we can serve. And finally, I guess I'll provide an update to council. We've talked, most recently, we talked about the subdivision approval for our permanent supportive housing development that we're working on the property next to our office. Working through that process now, we're finalizing plans with our architect. We anticipate closing on the financial side probably sometime in October, early November. We'll have plans out for bid late this year. We hope to make an award in December or January. We hope to break ground in the spring of 2022. We anticipate a 12 to 15 month construction process, so substantially complete and open to start working with new tenants, hopefully later in the summer of 2023. So quite the long process, but we're very much looking forward to getting 24 new units online and providing other housing opportunities for residents in Fergus Falls.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone have any questions for Michael about the HRA or programs they offer in Fergus Falls? Someone like to offer?
I'll do that, Your
recommendation to
Honor.
Council?
I'll
Thank
second.
you, Jim. Thank you, Krista. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. A motion carries. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
We'll take this up Monday night. Item number 3 is Public Improvement 5344 Randolph Avenue Improvement Project. We'll call on City Engineer Brian Ibarra. Good morning,
Thank
Brian.
you, and good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. City staff, we've been evaluating additional street candidates to receive a resurfacing project. We're recommending at this time to take a look at Randolph Avenue from basically project limits from Freiburg Avenue to Springen Avenue, and also a small segment of Freiburg Avenue from Lincoln to Summit. City records indicate, back in '99, and Randolph received a resurfacing in 1988, Freiburg being reconstructed. And also the PCI for these pavements ranges from 30 to 40. Therefore, we're recommending these be approved by initiating Public Improvement 5334. Like I mentioned, Randolph is adjacent to the school. We're aware of that. So my intent is to have this constructed by the school year. However, I think that's highly unlikely. So we would propose in the contract that If awarded and approved and everything, this would be resurfaced after summer school's out, spring of 2022. So therefore, at this time, Your Honor, I'm requesting to initiate public improvement 5344 and to accept Interstate Engineering's professional services proposal for design in a not to exceed amount of $60,000. I'd just like to note these streets are on our municipal state aid street system, so all costs are eligible for our state aid reimbursement.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone have any questions for Brian? Someone like to offer a recommendation to the council? Thank you, Brent. Second, Anthony?
Yep.
Thank you. We have a motion to bring this to the council. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we'll have an update on the BDPI, the Business Development Infrastructure Program. Update from Clara Beck. Good morning, Clara.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. This is just to clarify some action that was taken on July 19th in regard to an application to a deed program, the Business Development Infrastructure Program. We are still working on those applications, but included in your packet was resolution language that goes along with the applications. We are not to the point yet where we're actually adopting that resolution language, and we just wanted to be really clear about that. The resolution does include language that commits city funds to certain projects. Those sources and uses of funds have not yet been identified. So the action to move forward with the applications was correct, including the language of the resolution maybe confused things a little bit, so we just wanted to be very clear. We have not committed any funds at this point. We are just submitting the applications once they are complete, and they will come back in front of you so that you can see them. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Everyone all right with that? There? Just some clarification. I know Bill was a little, just wanted to be clear. Bill likes to be clear.
You feel better, Bill?
Now we're clear.
We're good now.
Now we're good.
We're clear.
We're clear.
Thanks, Claire.
All right. Next item is the airport management FBO contract discussion, and we'll call on Brian Ybarro, Justin Arneson. Who are we calling on here? Brian?
Probably sick of hearing from me, so we'll hear from Brian.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to go over quickly what you have in your packet, just for a little bit of clarity. You have two of the fixed-based operator airport management agreements. One is watermarked, the final draft, 7/22/21. This is the agreement to date, less the revisions. There was, I believe, about 3 key points, requested changes that have not been made to the contract that is contained in this current form. The other agreement, also I have a watermarked edits as well. This agreement right here has, I just want to note the revision key in the top left. This was initially presented to the City Council on July 6th. Since then, there have been some administrative edits, and those are what are highlighted in yellow. So, and the key revisions from July 6th Council to July 15th. Also, the green highlights reflect the changes that were made, received from Sky Cruise on July 15th. As I mentioned, of those changes, a lot of them have been administratively made. However, there was about 3 key revisions or requests to that have not been, that once again are reflected in this agreement. So I just want to provide some clarity and open up discussion right now. Just recently, I've had some correspondence with Sky Cruise yesterday, actually. And to best of my knowledge, they concur with everything in the final draft, with exception to insurance limits on storage facility, for aircraft storage. We have 2 options on that, but I think that's something, if the council is amenable, just authorize staff to work through the process with Sky Cruise and that particular item. So I'll just open up the questions right now you may have.
Yeah, and we do have Scott from here too, but just to be clear, so the contract, 722 has the edits that we talked about last Monday that Justin outlined with the 3 points that Justin made that are not changed in the contract.
That is correct.
Just so everyone's clear.
And just to be further clear, there will, like I said, one suggested revision on the insurance storage.
Sure. So the action is a recommendation to move this to the council Monday night for final approval. Someone like to offer that? Motion to do that?
I'll offer again.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jim. Justin?
I was gonna maybe bring up to the last point about the requested revision to the aircraft storage. I don't know if you guys have, it's on page 24. Currently we have aircraft liability. I believe this is where it falls in line at 250,000 per aircraft and $1 million per occurrence. And in an email that was received yesterday, you know, they looked over the contract, they're good with it, but they'd like the aircraft storage insurance to be 100,000 per aircraft, and 100,000 per occurrence. And by looking at the change in the amounts, it increased, I understand, their annual premiums. So that's their request is to, I believe, is that correct, Brian? Change it back down to 100 and 100,000 per?
That is the current request
From
them,
the
correct.
250 to a million. And I don't, maybe you can speak to that. I don't know. Good, bad, indifferent, or what our current contract would state, or what previously was stated out there, but maybe for us, it'd be nice to have a clean version for Monday night if we're going to allow that change or not, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, I had mentioned we just received it yesterday, so we got to evaluate what those impacts are. And in regards to League of Minnesota Cities insurance as well, I just want to know we have accepted some of the coverages. It might be perhaps less than the League of Minnesota Cities, so that's what we got to work through, though, just to make sure we are covered.
So they'll bring it Monday night with a clean copy with that portion worked out.
Works for me.
Stace, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, not to be confused, we're not really looking at that aircraft storage, it's the hangar keepers insurance that we're looking at. So it'd be page
14?
page 13
13.
in the contract. We're on the bottom of the page there, second paragraph from the bottom, it asks about hangar keepers insurance of at least 100,000 per aircraft and 500,000 per occurrence. And what this hangar keepers insurance is, it's not even required by the state. If we don't have hangar keepers insurance, we just have to notify anybody that brings their airplane into the main hangar that's attached to their arrivals departure building, and let them know that we don't have any insurance covering that if something was to happen. So the state doesn't require it at all. In the past, it's always been 100,000 and 100,000. So 100,000 per aircraft, 100,000 per occurrence. And that's the limit that we would like to keep. I guess the 100,000 per aircraft, 500,000 per occurrence, more than doubles our total premium out there. So we do want to have hangar keepers insurance. We just want to keep it at the limit that it was 100,000 per aircraft, 100,000 per occurrence.
Sure. Ralph, did you have a comment?
I do. The current language in the contract is what's recommended by the league. So I think the 100,000 with, what was it, 500,000?
Yeah.
Is per occurrence is what came down after we fielded this through the league. So I think that we should stick with it. But if the council wishes to instruct staff to consider changing it, Brian's indicated we'll work through it, but I don't really know what there's to work through personally, because I think either you follow the league's advice on that question, and I think we even had a higher amount, and the league dropped it down. We had 250 per occurrence, or 250 per aircraft, and 500 per occurrence, and that was dropped down to 100 by the league's recommendation. So, I mean, do with it as you may, but I'm just not sure what we will do with that. I understand it costs additional money, but hangar keeps insurance is important if you're going to keep aircraft and multiple aircrafts in a building or buildings. And personally, I think $100,000 per occurrence. Airplanes tend to cost a bit more than $100,000. So I mean, if you damage two aircrafts, I think you leave the liability insurance shorted. So just want to clarify that.
Sure. Thanks, Ralph. So we have a recommendation to bring this to council?
I mean, on that, obviously, if the league is doing that, then, you know, do we offer additional compensation to cover the premium? I mean, if we're going to insist on increasing the insurance level,
Well, I mean, you can, if that's what you want to do, but then you're taking this thing out of kind of the realm as to looking at apples and oranges based upon candidates. You know, one of the questions that presented itself was the reimbursement that we can receive through snow and mowing, and that brought, we had one proposal that indicated that they would take a base price of this and they would charge for that.
Yeah.
And then we had another proposal that says we will group it together and charge this much for the whole
Everything.
shebang. And so, I mean, you start chipping away a little bit here, chipping away a little bit here. And I actually think that if we compare the contract that we have proposed for you compared to what other municipalities are doing, it is pretty standard, in my opinion, as to the type of coverage that's being required. So the question is whether or not that puts it in parity with other proposals. We don't know that. And you keep chipping away at this and saying, I want a little bit more compensation. You know, I get it, you know, that they would like to cover that expense. But I think when you look at the industry standards and that the fact that, you know, I mean, these insurance is there, it costs money. But I think when you look at it compared to what other municipalities are requiring of their hangar keepers, I don't think we're out of line, and I think it was fully what
so was it in the RFP that this coverage would be there at that level?
No, I don't think we addressed any of that.
I don't think we addressed any of that. It may have been in what was provided in the previous contract, but again, insurance limits 15 years ago
Yep.
compared to insurance limits today are completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I hit that, but obviously if we didn't say that's what we wanted, then you wouldn't bid it. I mean, obviously I deal with contracts all the time, and I mean, people are very specific about, I mean, if we ask for X stainless steel pipe and then we change it to say we now want this, then they'll say that's fine, you can do it, but it's going to cost you more money.
Right, but I think if you look at the contract that we drafted, and attached to the contracts are 30 pages of attachments,
Yeah.
and of those 30 pages of attachments are what we had attached are minimum standards that say if you're going to be engaged in the business or any business at the airport, these are just the minimum standards. If you look at the language there, the limits are actually higher than what is being proposed. And those limits have been in the contract for over a month. So all of that's been in the contract for quite a while. It's just after we proposed it to the league, they had some additional language and they wanted some specific language that they suggested relating to hangar keepers to be incorporated on page 14 or whatever that page is.
14.
Yeah. And that's where we put it in. So that actually brings the limit down based upon what was in the previous versions of the contract under the minimum standards for basically aircraft storage.
Thanks, Rolf.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom.
Rolf, so what, so just to summarize, what is so right now the contract draft says 500,000 per occurrence, and Sky Crew would like to change that to 100,000?
If I could maybe just address.
Yeah.
Things that Ralph has done, I'd like to do that.
Well, I guess my question is what effect does it have on the city, having the lower limit? Does it expose the city to some kind of liability?
Potentially, if there's not sufficient insurance, they're going to look around for more coverage somewhere else. You know, I mean, it's, as an attorney, you look for what's called deep pockets. And you look around to see who has the deepest pockets, and that's who you sue. And it's a reality. And if there aren't deep enough pockets, you look around for more pockets.
Could we just
So-
point them in Councilmember Arneson's direction for that?
Yeah, but I mean,
They won't find much.
yeah, I mean, and the point is that you know, nobody wants anyone to get sued. Nobody wants anyone to have damage. It's just a little bit of precaution in
Yeah.
case something does happen.
Yeah.
You know, and the problem is, and that's not the problem, is that these aircrafts are expensive. And if you damage it or damage an airplane, I mean, potentially it's expensive. Aren't
And-
cheap things.
Like any insurance, you know, it's a gamble. You know, you never know what's coming down the pike. Or, yeah, I guess, Your Honor, could we hear from Stacy?
Sure. And then we'll bring this discussion to Monday night too. We won't belabor it all morning.
So the insurance we're talking about is the hangar keeper's insurance. And again, the state of Minnesota doesn't require hangar keeper's insurance. It's something that, as a manager of the FBO, we can address and have on. And talking to our insurance agent, typical insurance that people have coverage for is $100,000 per aircraft, $100,000 per occurrence. The state, again, does not require you to have any. So in our request for proposal, which was brought up by Anthony on page 5, the limits are right there toward the bottom of the page. 100,000 per aircraft, 100,000 per occurrence. That's what we put our bid for. We didn't bid on anything higher than that. On our first meeting that we had together with a group after the city council meeting in July, the first part of July, we talked to everybody about bringing these insurance limits back down to what we requested in the proposal. And that was agreed upon. In our conference call, Sandra was present at the meeting, and we thought that this would be changed back down to what the original limits were in this proposal. It never has. When Ralph said it's been in there for a month, it's been in there for a month because it never got changed. That was one of the big things that we wanted to get changed. So to answer your question about the fact of the exposure, yeah, it does have exposure, but at the end of the day, this is some insurance that's not even required by the state. The rest of the insurance requirements are. We elect to have this to limit our exposure, but at the rate of $100,000 per aircraft and $100,000 per occurrence. So, does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Stacy. So I guess we'll.
I just do have one comment. I mean, I recall our conversation a bit differently. Maybe Justin does too. The limits that we talked about, we're bringing the overall limits from $2 million down to $1 million, if I recall the conversation that we had here correctly, and maybe Brian can confirm that.
All right, so we do have a motion to bring this contract to the council on Monday night, when that's when the council will vote on to take final action. So there's some differences of opinion on the level of occurrence from the 500 to 100. I think that's something that, if it's not worked out between now and Monday, we're just gonna have to vote on it on Monday night, right?
So we're not, the vote right now is not giving them what they want.
The vote is just to move the contract as presented. The vote right now is the recommendation to the council Monday night with the 500,000, knowing that if it's not worked out between staff and Sky Crew on Monday night, the council will take the action, which direction they want to go Monday night, right? We're just gonna have to make a decision and go with it, right? So the motion is to bring it to the council. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't have anything else on the agenda. Anyone have any announcements? Lynn? Chat?
I have.
Chief? Chief? Muckow?
Just get up and talk about something.
Because it hasn't gone long enough this morning. Let's see if I can drag it on for another 20 minutes.
32 minutes.
It's not an annual report summary. I thought I would skate by without having to come up here and talk.
It's not a billism then.
I'm afraid. Hey, well, good morning, Mayor, members of the council. Going back to Public Works Director Taylor's talk about the dry conditions and the drought, thought it'd be a good opportunity just to, to get some information out to those that tune into the broadcasts and watch it later on. But with the dry conditions certainly comes the concern or enhanced concerns for fire. To date, vegetation fires, we've seen double the amount, which granted isn't a lot. It's been 10 compared to about 5 that we have annually, but we certainly are on pace to have quite a few more wildland occurrences, which ties back to the dry conditions. So with that, certainly want to throw some caution to our residents and the guests that come through the community that we're that we are a little more fire aware this year than maybe most years. In regards to the campfires, which there's no restriction. It's currently within our city limits. The only time we restrict the recreational fires is a red flag warning day. So that's kind of been a thing for the last 4 years, that if our residents hear that, or if that's put out by the National Weather Service, even if you have a fire permit, you cannot have a recreational fire. So that's one area we wanted to get out there for folks. And similar to what Guy talked about, the DNR is kind of our lead agency within the state when it comes to wildland occurrences. So we follow a lot of their recommendations. And with that, they currently list Otter Tail County rated as the high category. Points north are an extremely high category. You maybe heard a lot of communication in the news about the Bemidji area. They certainly are in a different situation than we are with their types of fuels. And with the high category, the fuels that are out there, the vegetation, as we call it, they start easily and they burn rapidly. We've seen this summer, even mowed lawns, we've had fires go across the dry conditions within a mowed lawn, which is not normal conditions for us. Again, it's not a matter of we have major wildland occurrences here like you see on the news, but certainly we have some of the challenges with our grassy fuels we have out in the prairies. So with campfires, like we said, they're okay unless we see some red flag warnings. And if we end up doing a full-on burn ban within the city, we'll certainly communicate that out through the city website, through hopefully media sources, through Facebook. Other things to just kind of for our residents and for you all just to be, aware of is off-highway vehicles. You go off trail riding. Certainly be careful with those. The hot engine and the exhaust are ignition sources, and you may not even know it. You might be traveling down a trail, and 15 minutes later, suddenly, we're getting called and there's smoke in the area. So again, that might be something you're not even aware of that you may have caused. And then also with cooking, we think grills are kind of a normal thing we use, but in dry conditions up against the house or a dry deck, certainly can cause challenges. So. And last but not least, we still have on occasion spent cigarette or smoking material that folks use the coffee can method, shall we say, that years ago coffee cans were metal. And what would we put a bunch of cigarette butts into was coffee cans. Well, unfortunately, there's not many metal coffee cans nowadays. There are a lot of plastic, but folks still have that ingrained in them that, hey, we need to put these in a coffee can. And when we get those dry conditions or dry days with high wind, all those spent smoking materials, the wind that goes into those, they may lay dormant for up to a month. And suddenly wind is introduced, and then the side of the house catches fire because they start to light off. So certainly destructive. And with the heat, it's taxing on the firefighters. So the less fires we have is certainly good, and that's any year, but it does take a large fleet of firefighters along with mutual aid when we do catch a fire on those hot days. So with that, any questions you have for us? Or
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I was just wanting to get a reminder on what your regular training schedule is. I believe I saw the trucks out on Monday downtown, and hadn't heard any sirens and thought, it's probably a training. But if there was, I know that there's a routine, and I just wanted to be reminded what that was.
Every Monday night. Yep. It used to be every second and fourth. However, with the pandemic last year, we changed up our training model, and it was successful. There's the changes that we made, and we've kept it. So yeah, every Monday night, our fleet is out doing some type of training. We've had a lot of activity over in the Sheridan Channing area. We have a house that LB Homes has allowed us to train in with. Ultimately, the end goal would be to burn the house. However, we are similar to what we're asking our residents. Is lighting fires in this condition isn't the best thing either. But
might have a bigger training exercise.
Yeah, to your point, we're down by the river. We have dry hydrants that are connected to the river, so we can connect our hoses up top on the roadway, and it'll draft water out of the river. And Public Works Director Taylor and myself, we kind of got talking Monday night that I wonder what kind of condition they're in, because it's not something we routinely go to look at. But again, with this type of weather, looking at all water sources, we went and we back flushed them and made sure they were opened up. And so it's kind of a neat opportunity, one that we don't take very often, because a lot of times we are within the city limits. We work with the hydrants. That's our best source of water. But in the case that we have challenge with water supply, which Not saying there is, but in the case that something really starts to go awry, we have multiple water sources for our firefighting needs.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions? Thanks, Chief. Jim, did you have a?
Yes, last Wednesday, starting Wednesday through Sunday, Fergus Falls hosted the Sub-State Region 14 American Legion baseball tournament here. And I just want to commend Monty and his boys for all the terrific work they did out there during the games. I mean, they were out dragging the field between games and watering, and they did just a fantastic job.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lance.
All right. With that, we're adjourned. Thanks, Jim.
Future board